wrestling world in shock today. Former champion Chris Benoit found dead in his Atlanta home along with his wife and young son. Police now treating the discovery as a double murder-suicide.
The events involving Chris Benoit and his family was one of the darkest events in pro wrestling history. When information became official in relation to what Benoit had actually done, WWE made it their quest to erase the former world champion from their established history.
Therefore, other than my comments, there will be no mention of Mr. Benoit's name in this program.
This meant that he would never be mentioned and his matches and moments would never be promoted or glorified ever again. However, over the past 13 years, casual mentions have been seen throughout WWE. These mentions could be brief in books, interviews that are done by WWE superstars, or even see Benoit himself in promo packages from old matches. Join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at 10 times Chris Benoit was mentioned or appeared in WWE following the events of 2007. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Number 1. TLC 2013. Now, one of the ways WWE tried to erase Benoit from history was editing any clips he was involved in so that he would be barely noticeable. Naturally, this was extremely difficult to do as Benoit was involved in some of the most important moments of all time. One of these moments took place at Summerslam 2004, as Randy Orton would defeat Benoit to win the world title for the first time and in the process become the youngest world champion in company history. Whenever the clip was shown after 2007, you would never see Orton pinning Benoit. All you would see was Orton celebrating after the match, holding the title high in the air. However, this would all change at 2013's TLC pay-per-view. We would be able to see Orton pinning Benoit. It wasn't clear if this was an editing mistake and WWE didn't mean to include Benoit in this manner, or they assumed that it was hardly going to make a big difference by just featuring Benoit in this short clip to promote something that he had nothing to do with him. Number 2. Kevin Owens at a SummerSlam interview. When a WWE superstar undertakes an interview with the media to promote an upcoming show, they are bound by certain criteria in relation to what they can and can't talk about. One of the things talent can't mention is the name Chris Benoit. However, over the years, superstars have name-dropped him on numerous occasions. This can come from a question from an interviewer that personally names Benoit, or a talent can slip up and accidentally mention him. This was seen during the media event before SummerSlam 2018. At the event, Kevin Owens was discussing his SummerSlam memories and what the pay-per-view meant to him on a personal level. Owens stated,
I was there when Randy Orton won the WWE title for the first time against Chris Benoit.
Owens then immediately realized what he said, and he says,
Ooh, jeez. Might want to edit that one out.
Owens would then go on to lose to Braun Strowman in a 1-minute match at the pay-per-view. We're pretty sure it has nothing to do with the slip-up though. Number 3. The Untold History of the WWE. In 2009, as a way of increasing sales of WWE magazine, they released a special edition titled The Untold History of WWE. The magazine featured WWE Chairman Vince McMahon detailing everything fans wanted to know about WWE but were too afraid to ask. One of the topics Vince discussed was the issue of Chris Benoit. In the magazine, Vince stated that it's okay to acknowledge Benoit within a historical context, but not in a promotional manner. Vince would state, "It's not right to pretend he didn't exist," he said when asked whether Benoit's history can be acknowledged by WWE. "It's one thing to include him as part of a historical perspective, which I believe is okay, and it's another thing to promote him, which is not okay." Vince would finish off his comments on the Benoit situation by stating, "The situation is very similar to that of O.J. Simpson. Despite his controversy, O.J. was still a part of the NFL scene. You can't deny that he existed." Number 4. WWE Network documentary Monday Night War. The Monday Night War documentary was one of the first documentaries to hit the WWE Network when the platform launched in 2014. The idea behind the documentary was to get old fans from the Attitude Era to watch the documentary and hopefully attain their membership in the network. It outlined the WWE vs WCW war from the late 90s and had interviews with all the legendary talents that featured in the so-called war. One of the most interesting moments of that documentary series was an episode detailing the downfall of WCW. In the episode, Jim Ross mentions Chris Benoit by name when referencing the likes of Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, Perry Saturn, and Dean Malenko jumping ship to WWE in early 2000.
Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, and Dean Malenko on WWF Raw.
this would actually be the first time that Benoit would be mentioned by name since the events of 2007. Number 5. ComicCon 2012. WWE appearing at Comic-Con events has allowed fans an opportunity to ask WWE superstars anything they want. However, this can open up a can of worms, meaning WWE can't control what fans ask and can't really control how their talent responds to the question. During the WWE panel at Comic-Con 2012, a fan asked the panel, which consisted of CM Punk, Sheamus, and Zack Ryder, "Is WWE trying to erase Chris Benoit?" After an awkward moment of silence, Punk answered the question by stating, "Due to the obvious hatred of what he did, it's not right to promote him. He's in the history books. It's nothing we're ashamed of, his past accomplishments and stuff like that. To further promote him after what he did, that doesn't make sense." Punk would then receive praise from the fans online for the way he handled and answered the difficult question. Number 6. 2K18's press conference. The 2K press conference is one of the most important events of the year on WWE's calendar. Well, of course, aside from Wrestlemania. The event is attended by top industry professionals, meaning that WWE has to put their best foot forward in who and what they present at the event. For the 2K18 conference, they had WWE Hall of Famer Kurt Angle take to the stage to discuss his career, as he was a playable character in the WWE game for the first time in almost 10 years. Angle at the event discussed his best matches, and he stated,
"You know, the Eddie Guerreros and the Shawn Michaels, the Brock Lesnars, Randy Orton and Rey Mysterio, Chris Benoit and Chris Jericho."
Obviously, this wasn't a good look for WWE. One of their top stars name-dropping Benoit in this capacity in front of all the top video game media wasn't going to go down well with WWE officials. It's unclear if Angle received any punishment for the Benoit mention, or WWE simply didn't want to draw any more attention to the matter, so they swept it under the rug. Number 7. WWE Encyclopedia. Although WWE has attempted to distance themselves from Chris Benoit since 2007, the WWE Encyclopedia released in 2012 featured a sizable entry on the former world champion. The bio went into details about Benoit's career, including his run in WCW and winning the world title in the main event at WrestleMania 20. Benoit is mentioned in past tense throughout the entry, and there's obviously no mention of the events of 2007. Dave Meltzer reported at the time that the entry made a lot of people ask questions backstage at WWE. Meltzer stated it was rather odd that they wanted to erase him from history, yet they gave him a section in their very own history book. Number 8. Stone Cold asks if Benoit should go into the WWE Hall of Fame. During a Q&A session of his acclaimed podcast in 2013, legendary WWE wrestler Steve Austin was asked on his thoughts on Chris Benoit going into the WWE Hall of Fame. Austin would go on to praise the career of Benoit, stating that he did enjoy working with him before addressing the question directly and stating, "One night, Chris ended up killing his wife and his kid. This is an act so terrible and horrible I can't even comprehend or guess as to what happened in that house. That will always overshadow any accomplishment Chris had in the ring. He'll never be in the Hall of Fame. It will just never happen. His career will speak for itself, but his record as a human being is first and foremost, and those actions will never be forgotten." That's my feelings on that. We don't even need to talk about the Hall of Fame. Speaking for myself, Chris Benoit, the person I knew, loved him. Chris Benoit as a wrestler, loved him. Chris Benoit as a person who did what he did, unforgivable. Bottom line. Number 9. John Cena gets asked about Benoit. During a fan Q&A in Australia in 2017, John Cena was asked about why WWE doesn't acknowledge Chris Benoit in a historical context. This obviously put Cena in a very difficult position, as he was still the face of the WWE at the time, meaning that people would likely associate Cena's views with WWE's standpoint on the situation. However, Cena responded, "Very difficult question, and I'll answer it like this. Oftentimes we get caught up in a person's ability and their performance, and this transcends WWE. This is a problem in sport. It is also a problem in entertainment. People will do bad things, but if they are good at what they do, sometimes those things are overlooked." Cena followed it up by stating that, "I don't believe in that. I believe you should take ownership for your actions, all of them, not just ones that are performed in front of an audience. I think a company's stance on the entire situation set a precedent for athletics and a precedent for entertaining of taking ownership for your actions." And number 10, the Thunderdome. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, WWE were forced to present the majority of their 2020 programming from the Performance Center in Orlando. It wasn't until August 2020 where the WWE managed to lease the Amway Center, meaning they could present something a little more appealing to the fan base. WWE turned the Amway Center into the Thunderdome, which allowed for fans to be present virtually at events including pay-per-view shows thanks to LED screen boards. The one problem with this is that the WWE quickly realized that the fans could literally hold up a picture or a sign of anything, which could include inappropriate material. And this was seen over the first 2 weeks of the Thunderdome, as fans had shown pictures of a Klan rally and much more. Additionally, one bizarre fan decided to put up a picture of Chris Benoit, and this made it to Raw. This was supposedly the last picture of Chris Benoit ever taken, just weeks before the event unfolded. WWE was forced to release a statement citing disappointment that fans were using the platform in this inappropriate manner. But there you have it, guys. 10 times Chris Benoit was mentioned or appeared in WWE following the events of 2007. Be sure to leave your comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already, follow us on Instagram and Facebook for exclusive lists, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.